tell us from your perspective what those changes are and what we're doing for our clients when it comes to audiobooks.
Audiobooks are extremely important for the target audience, for advisors themselves, if they are publishing with us and their target audience is busy people that are trying to find solutions. Audiobook is, the best thing ever because we design the books to be read, and they're not very long for this, and we take care of the writing to be very easy to read, and it has been proved that it works very well. But a lot of people that I know, including myself, they start and finish a book sometimes with the two-way. Like I have physical books because I like them, clearly, but I also listen to audiobooks sometimes. I have a couple books here that I have the audiobook because when I'm doing something I want to listen to, but when I have the time, then I sit down and finish, reading it. And a lot of people, they want to know, they want to read, but they don't have the time. They have kids, they have, jobs, have a lot of things. And most of these people, they spend a lot of time in commute as well. So it's the perfect time to listen to it. So I think audiobook essential, and we offer two options actually. So you can clone your voice using AI.
And this is a good use of AI, which is AI, we can clone an author's voice and then have AI in their professionally cloned voice narrate the book. And the example I always say is that back, this was years or a couple of years ago when I first did this, I tried to narrate the book myself. And then I discovered this cloning technology, and I just did the blind taste test, meaning that I showed a sample of my real voice, human narrated, versus the AI clone voice to a person. And I didn't give any context. I just said, hey, which one of these do you think sounds better? And guess which they chose? They chose the AI cloned version of the voice, which at first I was very offended by. But I say that jokingly because, wow, that freed up my time. Because now as I write more and more books, I don't need to narrate them. I have the cloned voice. I have my team. I can go about doing things that are a better use of my time. And so I think the AI cloned voice is probably most popular amongst our author clients. And the quality's only gotten better and better since since we adopted it a few years ago. It just became remarkably good. And then there's always occasionally an author who does want to do it in their voice, and fantastic, let's do it in your voice. We can work with you well. And the only limitation, though, with the AI clone version of the voice is that currently Audible does not accept it, right? And Audible is one of the platforms that, is probably the most common one. And so for our clients, you can decide which is more important. And most people still lean in towards the AI clone version because for a variety of reasons. For example, in my own case, I don't care if someone buys my book. I'm not doing this for royalties. I'm doing this so I can really have a free version of my book that in the process of a sales call, I can send them the audiobook so that a prospect can listen to it between call number 1 and call number 2. That's my primary use of an audiobook. And so for that, fantastic. AI clone version of the book works perfectly. And at the same time, there's some exciting things that we're just starting to roll out where now more and more platforms are accepting the AI clone version of the voice because it's just becoming normalized, right? So tell us from your perspective what those changes are and what we're doing for our clients when it comes to audiobooks.
Like you said, it is the more optimal part. And like I said, you want to use AI tools not to replace the work, but to help you the work. And in case your work is your ideas in your book. So you want to spread that the best way possible. So I think for people that are short on time,
which is pretty much most of our clients,
most of everybody these days, yes, the time is the new luxury. So for these people, it's been amazing. It has been good for a while now, but you got an update this year that you can include, change the emotions and intonation of the voice, which wasn't possible 2 months ago. So it's proven to be an excellent time efficient thing. We have a very strict process inside where we help you create your voice. And after you created it, we use it to provide a sample. And then you're going to listen to it before we create the entire thing. We have a window for making changes and adjustments if you want, before we create the entire audiobook with your voice. And then the second option is for the authors to record themselves, which I also encourage for authors that are up to the challenge. Because it is very nice. It's personal. You can put it into Audible, which it is a very big platform, but currently I don't think it's the only one anymore. I think there are others, for example, Spotify and Apple. They have really solid, platforms with a huge amount of listeners. And then the process, it takes a while, and it's going to take a lot of your effort. You tried it, you saw it, so
Oh yeah, no,
you
it's
need
not
to
pleasant
have
unless you're like that person who naturally,
exactly.
does a solo
And
podcast and likes speaking
exactly.
and
And my
doing that.
advice is that
It's
for authors who are like that, we did have some authors like that. They already were used to this. So it was very easy for them. They sat down, they recorded it, they sent it to us, just, so you don't have to edit anything. You send us the raw audio and we edit, we put it into the standards, and it was good. But I want to be very clear that don't feel like it's a problem to replicate your voice using AI in case you don't have the time, because it is better to have your words out there, because in the end, you want to have your ideas and your book out there in the world as easy as possible for people to reach. And I think, wanting to do something that you won't be able to do, it's going to stop you. We had some cases of authors that insisted, and they weren't able to complete. And then, so it's really not nice when we have interrupted projects just because, you're afraid, or you have some prejudice against like having your voice, replicated.
yeah. It's I'll give you a couple examples. One, my brother Gabe, he's more in the camp of you should narrate it yourself, which again I respect. But here's the funny thing is that he wrote his book and he's so busy that he's not done the audiobook. And so now it's months and months later where he's finally accepted, okay, let's just do the AI version because as I like to say, done is better than perfect. And I'll even challenge that though. I believe done's better than perfect. And at the same time, going back to my example of the blind taste test, which one do you prefer? People chose the AI poll. And why is that? It's because it's not only replicating your voice, but it's actually a trained voice, meaning that it's trained on narrating an audiobook. So it knows where to put the pauses and it knows how to deliver it with more impact, if you will. And at the end of the day, you want your voice in either version, you want to get it done, but you also need to earn the reader's attention, because if this is not your skill and you narrate it yourself, but for whatever reason you just don't have the voice, probably I'll include myself in that camp, you're going to lose the person. And the number one principle we have in terms of books, whether it's physical or audio, is consumption, meaning that your ideal reader prospect actually gets to the end of it. They consume your message, and that's the guiding principle. And so that should guide the decisions that precede it.
I agree. And it's not like you're putting AI slop out there. It's not like it's a robotic, weird voice. It's really state of the art. If you give it a good example of your voice when you're recording and submitting it, it's going to replicate everything. I've listened to audiobooks that were digitally narrated that, imitated the breathing patterns. You can't tell. Most of these you can't tell.
Well, and that's a blessing and a curse because it trains so well, meaning that the inputs are not great. It's going to say, well, this is what the person sounds like.
Yeah.
And it's going to imitate not the best version of you. I think there's also one final version I'll add to this is that there's different technologies out there. So there's some instant AI cloning, which might take 15, 30 seconds of your voice and do a decent job of it, right? But you can tell it's different. For anyone that's, seen examples of it, the one that we use does require 30 minutes of your voice so that it can very well duplicate the quality of your voice.